Okay, perfect. Here we are. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Forrest Wilson, and I'm here today with Sarah McCrum. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Forrest.
We're here today to talk about a number of things, I'm sure, but I know that we're doing an event together with a few others on March 1st called The Future of Money. And so it seems today the organizing conversation is around the future of money. And I just want to introduce you as, we met through our friend, Jeff Vanderkloot, who I found your work through, and I'm reading your book. I'm about halfway through Love Money and Money Loves You, which is a channeled book that you have that has come through you in a way from the consciousness of money itself, and is certainly inviting me into many new and quite frankly refreshing and relieving and liberating stories and ways of being with money, and inviting me to notice the energy of money in a new way, and how money might want to be in relationship with me and with us and with humanity moving forward. So maybe I'll kick it over to you, and you can share a little bit about your path to here, the future of money, and this book, and what money's inviting for us in what's emerging on planet Earth right now.
Thank you. The future of money sounds to me like a ridiculously bold statement. Like, who is anybody to say, oh, this is the future of money? But there's something really important, I think, in that title and in the notion of the future of money. So I'm going to explain a little bit about how the book happened and what sits behind that notion that we should be looking at the future of money, because I think that this is a very, very important topic. And it's not a topic just for people who run the economy or for government. It's for each one of us to participate in it at any age. So yes, you said it was a channeled book. What actually happened was I had a miserable business failure back in 2010. And it was very shortly after that where I had no money at all. I was not paying my rent. It was like, one of those really bad experiences. And I found myself writing a message from money. Literally, it was journaled in my little notebook. And it was like money was talking to me. And the first thing it said to me was, I would like to tell you to love me. I'd asked the question, I think the question was, what would money like to say to you? And it said, I would like to tell you to love me. And then it went on and it introduced itself in this really extraordinary and beautiful way. And it said, I'm an energy, I'm beautiful, I'm here to help human beings, and you're too afraid of me, and all this kind of thing. And the final words it said in that message was, I will love you. It said, don't wait, just take me, I will love you. And that's such an invitation. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor or somewhere in between. The idea that a beautiful energy that is money, rather than this ugly, corrupting, difficult, kind of complicated energy, could say, don't wait, just take me, I will love you. Even if you've taken a lot of it already, what I find is wealthy people so often have so much guilt and shame around the fact that they have more than other people. And then people who have less have all kinds of complications around money and don't want to be like those shameful, guilty, wealthy people. I'm not saying all wealthy people feel guilt and shame, but I think many people have very complicated relationships with money. And if you think about the place that money plays in our life, from before you're born, your parents, having a baby is a serious financial consideration. Dying, I saw somebody recently, she had chosen when she was going to die, but some of her last pleas were for people to support a GoFundMe campaign to be able to pay through to the end of her life and beyond, to have a funeral. So money is here with us from the moment we're born and before to the moment we die and afterwards. And we can think, oh, I don't really want to be too much involved with money, or I'd like to have lots of it. We can think a lot of things about it. To lie down in your bed at night has cost you money. To be in a house, to be on the internet, to go for a walk in nature, you're going to be wearing clothes and shoes and whatever it is. It's like, it's everywhere. And the way we are with money at the moment, on the whole, creates a lot of conflict internally and therefore externally. It lies at the root of most of the biggest problems we have on the planet. So we wouldn't, the words that came to me, I almost don't want to say it, but we wouldn't rape the planet, nature, if it weren't for our relationship with money. If we were with money in a way that's aligned with nature and that supports nature, we wouldn't do the things that we do. It would be totally unacceptable. We wouldn't treat people the way we treat people, for example, in business, if we didn't have a distorted relationship with money. So the way we respond to climate, the way we respond to health challenges, which has been so relevant, the way we respond to social challenges, political and governance challenges, our politics are corrupted because of our relationship with money, pure and simple. So there are many people in the world who are looking at how do we create a better future? And my concern is that we must put money right in the heart of that and not ignore it. Our relationship with money sits at the heart of our economy, of our governance, of our social systems, of our family systems. Anything that we do where we contribute as human beings, money's involved.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's so much that I want to explore more out of what you shared. And what comes up for me most strongly in this moment is just, we might want to actually define, like, how do you define money? What's your working definition for money? There's a lot of ways we could do that. So,
well, having written this book, because that what I described there, which was the first message that I wrote, turned into over 60 messages from money that kind of reintroduced itself in a very different way. I see it as essentially the energy of manifestation, of materialization, and ultimately of creation. So the materialization of the world that we live in at an energetic level. And what that means, because you think, well, hold on a moment, money is cash and transactions and numbers and things. If you think about what those numbers and those notes and coins represent, because none of them are a real thing. A dollar note is a piece of paper, and it only has value if you give it to somebody else and they give you something for it. Like if I gave you lots of $100 notes and you put them under your bed and never did anything with it, we would have had a completely empty exchange, or not even an exchange, a transaction that has no value in it. So those pieces of things that we call money represent value, enable us to exchange value. So another way of saying it is that money is the energy that sits behind the way that we exchange value as human beings. But ultimately, we exchange value because we want things. I want a new pair of shoes. Money then comes into the equation. There's something I want. Or I want to change the world in some way, and money will be a really important part of that. So it's the energy that is connected with our wishes and our desires to create value in life.
I'm really struck by your definition. I mean, it's I as in a previous life, I was an economics major in college, and
oh, were you?
Yeah, I learned about money as a medium of exchange, and I learned that really the currencies emerged out of the actions and interactions of individuals, right? Like initially we were barterers, and then we had like gold, for example, or prior to gold, even like tobacco or cacao, and different currencies emerged that were easier to exchange than maybe a cow or a chicken.
Exactly.
And then at some point, right, we switched over to central banking and fiat currencies, and there's a long history there. But really what's most exciting about what you've invited me into and what Jeff's invited me into around money is that the money, to me, the way I experience it is that money's alive. The money has its own energy, it has its own consciousness, and we can speak to it directly and co-create with it, actually invite it in and see what is it wanting to create, what does it think of our ideas for creation, is it in full support of what we're up to, or does it have some input of how we might shift trajectories? And so I'm loving the feeling of money as a friend, and even in some ways like a lover in some ways too, like a really trusted companion and a soulmate in a way. And that is challenging a lot of the stories that I have am actively diluting around not enoughness and scarcity. And I mean, that's one of the core assumptions in economics is scarcity, a scarcity of resources. And so I'm really intrigued by just reading your book and listening to your, I love that I have it on Audible and I'm listening to the words. It feels like such a enlivening transmission. But there's this feeling of just bigger, 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 more, more, more expansion. The universe is expanding, we're expanding, money's expanding, our creative capacities and what we're creating in the world together is expanding.
And it's not about greed, and it's not about exhausting the resources of the planet. That's the interesting thing, because people often challenge me around that. And they say, well, it says more, 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 dream big, bigger still, expand. Is this message all the way through the book? And people think, yeah, but we've got these limited resources. We have, there may be limitations on some of our resources, but we don't have limitation on our imagination. We don't have a limitation on how we could shift our use of resources. And we know from the example of Nikola Tesla, it's a fantastic example. We could say, well, there's limited oil on the planet. Yeah, we know that. In my view, building solar farms all over the planet is like, I just look at it. How could that really be natural? I understand the sun is a natural energy. We know that Nikola Tesla ran a car from an antenna connected with unlimited free energy of some sort. We know that's possible. I believe that Nassim Haramein has actually kind of figured out the physics of that now. That's our future. So the resources that we most look at in terms of being limited, which are around energy, physical energy on this planet, are not at all if you open up the human creativity. They are if you go and count minerals or count how much gold you think is under the surface of the planet, or how much of this or how much of that. But, 100 years ago, we weren't using lithium. In 100 years' time, we won't be using lithium again because we'll have a far better way of doing things. I think we really need to realize that scarcity model has not only been scarcity around the Earth's resources, and therefore this scarcity that's built into the economy, but it's created a scarcity in terms of human resourcefulness as well. And it's really unnatural. It's not the way that nature is.
And you speak about money as an aspect of nature in the book.
I actually came to live on a farm. I bought a farm last year because I felt like I wanted to kind of embed myself more deeply in nature to understand that in relation to money, like as an energy, and as an energy that is fundamentally, it's founded in love. It's an energy of life. To me, the energy of life is love, is the kind of underlying energy of life, and therefore money is a part of that. The principles of money are very in a way, it's part of nature, and nature is part of it. It's all, you can't separate these things out. It's like we're also part of nature, and nature is part of us, and money is a part of that. And then nature has this abundance. Like I open a papaya, a pawpaw, some people call it, and I don't know how many seeds it has inside it. We have it very regularly for breakfast here. And we've planted lots of those seeds, and those seeds become trees. And when you see the fruit that grows on them, you can't help but think of abundance. I remember when I was younger, picking red currants. We used to go to this farm where you could pick your own, and picking red currants, and they're so beautiful. The color is, they're so shiny and unbelievably bright red color. And you can't help but just fall in love with the abundance that is actually, we're living in on this planet. And it's not abundance which is like the whole world is bursting with red currants. Actually, if you don't grow them well, you don't have any red currants. It's like an abundance that exists with the notion of limitation. We need constraints in life. I think this is really important because a lot of us, when we think of abundance, we feel like, oh, there'll never be another constraint. But abundance kind of exists with constraints. But the underlying energy of it is this energy of generosity. And I experienced that, and I think many people experience that in nature. It's just like, oh, this works. Nature works in and of itself. It doesn't need to be like confined, because it's made to work, and we're made to work too.
Yeah, I love that. There's no central planner in the rainforest, so it seems, right?
Exactly, yes.
So, so we're doing this event, the Future of Money, on March 1st, and we've got. I don't know who all is going to show up, but I know who I'm going to be inviting. Right, I'm involved in many collectives of people of all age ranges. A lot of folks my age, but really of all age ranges, all over planet Earth right now, who seemingly have said, "Hey, I've outgrown the story that I've been given. I've outgrown the systems that we're living in. I've outgrown all of this. There's just something that's total rubbish here, that we've completely lost our way. I don't know what it is that I'm stepping into from here, but I know that whatever's gotten me to here ain't working for me anymore." So what's your message to the increasingly, I mean, from where I sit, seemingly increasingly every day getting larger collective of humans who are saying, um, there's got to be another way. There's got to be another way. And in that, how does money want to create with us in exploring the new way forward?
I think it's not just that there's got to be another way, there is another way. I've spent the last 5 years working with somebody to develop another way of doing business that is like that can meet some of the challenges we have. So it's directly involved with regenerating nature, improving human health and well-being, really important things that are very valuable to society. And my plan is to invite my business partner to our meeting, because this is a real example. What happens when you start to design business, and business is fundamentally the way that money flows through the world, on the principles that are in the book, that these natural principles of money, is that I had a conversation a little earlier with somebody. They invested in the business, and they said, it's the first investment we've ever made in our life that just feels right. It's such a relief. It's like, it feels as a human being like you can do business in a way that is right for life. That means it's right for you and me. It's right for the people who are currently really disenfranchised from our financial systems all over the world, whole countries where people are exploited, literally, and their resources are exploited by wealthier nations and wealthy companies. That doesn't feel right. And what we are discovering, and this is a first go, but most people we see who are working on money, they're just trying to do the same thing in a slightly different way. So they'll take what we do at the moment, let's say investing in things, and then they'll just try to make it so that it's environmental investing, or it's investing for impact, but they're fundamentally doing the same things. When you really design it from the ground up, you start to do different things. And I think that that's what's really important about the future of money, which will tie into the future of our economy and our governance, is when we build on the right principles, which in my book are love, abundance, generosity, and nature. I could add other things in there, but it's a pretty good collection. Love, abundance, generosity, and nature. When you build business on those principles, and then if you would build an economy on those principles, it works in such a different way. It's natural, it's simple, it's beautiful. It creates space for people to do what they love to do. And yeah, I what I can see is that is a better foundation.
Mhm. Yeah, and as you're saying that, I'm getting this very clear image of the interconnected whole, and how when you're speaking to me, I feel so connected to the larger web of life, and not just humanity, but all of life. And
Yeah.
and it seems to me, I have one of my economics quotes that has really stuck with me, is that markets emerge from the actions and interactions of individuals. And what comes up for me in hearing you speak is, there's a collective of people who are actually opening up to a new operating system and a meaning making system that is sourced from and infused with love, generosity, abundance, and nature as guiding principles and the tectonic plates of the meaning making fabric. And from there, our money and form of exchange and marketplaces are emerging, that's based on this new paradigm.
Absolutely. And one of the things I think is really good is we don't need to be really good at this or really perfect or get it exactly right. I think as long as we go in that direction and we start to make decisions based on these things that we value deeply and we know are right compared to the old models, we'll figure it out together. That's what we've really learned. Like, I can say we made lots of mistakes. We've been very human at times, in the sense of, humans are messy. But what we have done is kept going. And when you keep going, this kind of beauty starts to emerge through the work that you're doing. And sometimes you can't see exactly where it's going to go. And sometimes it really does feel messy. Sometimes I feel like I'm kind of coming out of the mud a little bit because I'm letting go of some things that have been the way for so long. But fundamentally, I see that all we need to do, all those of us who care about what you just talked about, just like face forward and step forward and face forward and step forward, and we will work it out together.
Yeah, and so I'd love to talk about that for a moment, because for me it seems that there is this unlearning and this letting go of the dehydrated neural pathways in our mind that are attached to money. And so I get curious about, how do you know when you talk about knowing what's right? When you say that, it lands in my system not as making logical sense in the prefrontal cortex, but maybe a different kind of knowing or different felt sense of knowing. So could you share more about that?
Yes, we need to be better at sensing, using our subtle senses. So the five senses that we have grown up thinking were our collection of senses are a very, very, very tiny subset of the senses that we actually have. I don't think we could possibly count really how many senses we have, because probably as we become more sophisticated, there will be more and more. The simplest way to access that is through intuition. People who are very empathic are using not physical senses, but subtle senses. People who get downloads are sensing, that maybe using a variety of different senses to sense into information that isn't accessible to the majority of people. These subtle senses enable us to read information, read energy. And they enable us to read it more accurately than our logical brain. Dr. David Hawkins always said the mind is not capable of making decisions. I think something like that. And I totally understand what he means. We use our minds to make decisions. And this is one of the reasons why we so easily make unethical decisions, because we don't use a broader range of information and input. So we could make a decision that is logically right, but really feels bad. And we know it inside ourselves. And I think we've seen a lot of that through the COVID story. We watch decision makers making decisions that can, on some level, be justified. And it's so clearly just not the right decision. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't look right. It doesn't smell right. But we do that if we allow our minds to be the decision maker. So the highly sensitive people who are more capable with those senses, are the people who I think are very much called to this way of working. And they will be the leaders, I'm pretty sure, because they're able to access way more information about anything. So I, for example, if I'm making a decision, I can access information about how that decision looks and feels way in advance of it, the consequences of the decision. And so I can say, that decision really doesn't feel good. I know that if it doesn't feel good now, it's not going to feel good when it happens. I can't see all the future. Some people can see more than I can. But I know that those subtle senses working now in the moment are really my tools for shaping and influencing the future.
Yeah, I mean, yes, full yes. I'm really, yeah, I love the phrase I use oftentimes is feeling our way through the world, and there's a deeper and deeper invitation to surrender the need to know and the need to understand and be able to trust I mean, even just in the body, do I get a feeling of resonance might not even land, but a feeling of expansion, a feeling of sometimes when I'm really in perfect harmony, I feel like I've lit up like a Christmas tree. Right? There's like a feeling of just being purely electric versus do I feel claustrophobic or am I tightening? Am I collapsing? Am I falling down? And so for me, that's actually become more of a heuristic in terms of how I'm moving and navigating through the world in flow, which I know you speak about a good bit. And so yeah, it's we can't think our way into flow, right?
No, and I don't think we can think our way into the future either. We have all the solutions we need, really. And we have a lot of brilliant minds around the world, and they are literally, it's like they are bogged down in the thinking. And we know, and we've seen this so much in recent years, that you can have people who think this and people who think the opposite, and they can just spend their time arguing about it and nothing ever gets done. It clearly, it's not enough. I don't want to say that thinking is bad, because it has its place. Frankly, it's not a very big place. It's an important place, but it's not nearly as big as we've made it. And when we're able to sense and place the rational in the middle of that, not abandon it, because some people abandon it. It's like, oh, I just want to go with the flow, and get into awful trouble. So we must keep our rational faculty. It's useful. But if we're able to sense our way forward, feel our way forward, like you said, we will make more ethical and more conscious and therefore wiser decisions, and wiser decisions produce better outcomes. It's really simple.
And I'd love to take this even one more step practically, because what I'm loving so much in your book is your attention to language. And one thing that's really stuck out for me is you illuminate what happens when we speak from I want something or I need something, and invite other possibilities around how to speak with money, and how money, just the whole operating system of money itself. I really invite anyone watching this to read the book, because it's so catalyzing and activating, truly. But seeing the consciousness of money and the complexity of what money is navigating, and what ways speaking to money make most sense and are simplest for money to sort of process through the bureaucracy of money's governance system, it seems. So maybe you could even share, just for some of us too, a little bit about on this, like how can we really simply get into relationship with money and bring it into into creative expression with us in the simplest way?
I found that the easiest way is actually to think of money. So think of money like you suggested, that it's alive. So it's like a living, breathing something. Some people think of it like a friend. Some people think of it like a kind of collective. There are many different ways, but it's something. It's something, and it is in relationship with you. And then, honestly, one of the most revealing things is when you ask people about their relationship with money, is that they say, oh my goodness, it's just like my relationship with my girlfriend, or it's like the way they relate with one thing tends to be the way they relate with another. And so what I found is really helpful is to think about, well, if you want to have a really good relationship with a partner, for example, then are you going to say, well, I want to have a great relationship with you, and I want you to really love me, but I want to ignore you as much as I possibly can. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk about you. I don't want to think about you. I don't want to give you any energy, but I want you to be in my life, and I want you to be there abundantly and generously. Like when I talk like that, it makes it so clear what we do. Or, I want you to love me unconditionally, like we all want, but I'm going to take as much as I possibly can from you. I'm going to just I just need you so much that I don't really have anything to give. I just want to take. So when you start to see it in relationship language, you start to look at, okay, how do I create a really good relationship? Anyone who has had probably more years of doing that will know that creating a really good relationship doesn't come from falling in love. It doesn't come from hormones. It doesn't come from we just get it all right. on our wedding day or in our early years, and then we'll live happily ever after, which, the stories we grew up on. But you realize that it's something that's it's very dynamic, it's constantly changing. There are challenging moments, and there continue to be challenging moments, as there are with money. But from every challenging period, you expand, you grow something, and the relationship gets better. The sad thing is how many relationships break up at the moment where they could just grow into something much more beautiful. And that's because of lack of knowledge. And it's the same with money. I think once you understand this is a lifelong relationship, the good side about it is that the partner is never going to walk out. Money will never abandon you or look down on you or criticize you or judge you or any of those things. So you can kind of take out the human dynamic from it. But actually, the way that you need to behave towards money, it's like if you just say, hey, give me that, it just doesn't feel really good. But if you say, oh, like if you go round and round and it's like tell all these stories and you're not simple and clear, the other person has no idea what you're asking for. It's like, oh yeah, I love you so much and this and that, but when you do that, it's like, oh no, I can't say that you're really annoying. Like, we get so dishonest in our relationships because we can't be direct. So learning to be direct and simple with this energy that is all around us and inside us. So when you have a wish, there's something you'd really love to experience. What you said about lighting up like a Christmas tree is really the point. If you say, I want to go to Harvard because my father went to Harvard and my whole family thinks Harvard is the place to go. And I don't really want to go there, but I want to, because it's all in your head. That there's no light up moment there. Yeah. But if you just say, I would love to do something, whatever it is, and it comes from your heart and it comes from your soul, and it lights you up. You can see in your face immediately when you do that. It's a childlike, light in your eyes, light in your face. That is what I call a beautiful request. That's instantly registered in the energy of money system. And those are the things that are the easiest to respond to. So those synchronicities, those, serendipities, the way it's like, oh, wow, this just happened to me. I didn't expect it, but I wanted it. That comes from that kind of energy, the light up request.
Yeah, and I love the embodied somatic emotion you do as you talk about that. There's just this complete opening of the heart and of the body. And to me, when I experience people make a beautiful request like that, it actually feels like that's where it comes from in the body.
Yeah.
It's not coming from here, it's coming up and out.
It's completely different. And when it's coming from here, people talk round and round. It's, I really want this thing. It's really important for me. And I know it's going to change my life. And you can feel the earnestness and the heaviness. And then they just say, I would love this. I just would love to work with someone like that. Or I would love to have this. Or I'd love to experience that. And it's simple. It's almost childlike, but it is really adult. Yeah. And I know, because I've been sitting listening to people talking about these things and asking for what they want for more than 20 years. Like, I know when it's gonna happen. The big thing is the head ones, you have to work really hard to make it happen. You can make it happen, but it's hard work. Mm-hmm. The heart ones, it's easy, it's beautiful, it's simple, it feels like, that's what life's supposed to be like. It has that kind of quality about it.
Yeah, it's so much more satiating and
absolutely.
Okay, so I'm feeling the excitement of there's so much more I want to talk to you about, and I know we have our event on the 1st to do that, and we've got some guests coming in. Jeff's going to come in and be able to share. Another friend of ours, Sushant, is coming in, who's doing some new work in the venture capital space and looking at new ways of doing investment informed by new paradigms and this new consciousness that we're wandering into. Tell us a little bit more about Tim and your group Love Too. I know you spoke to it a little bit already on it. We didn't explicitly name it, but I just am so touched by your project and would love for you to just share a little bit more about what you all are up to with Love Too.
Okay, well, Love Too grew out of a really interesting combination between me and another person, that's Tim. And I'm really hoping that he'll be there too, at least for part of the meeting, because he's very brilliant and very different from me. So Tim was really concerned about climate change. He was saying things like, this is the third year in a row that we've had the hottest summer since records began. So very concerned about that. He said there are trillions of dollars in the world that have been committed or mandated to be invested in environmental improvement, and they're not being invested because there are no businesses that meet the requirements of the financial industry. So he had that, like, we've got this huge problem. We've got masses of money. Money is not the issue, but money is not meeting the place where things can happen. I come along with my experience, a lot of experience around healing and energy and my book. And I say, well, if you think about it that way, it's not going to work. Let's think about it a different way. So I start to introduce him to my way of thinking about things. That was the birth point of Love To. What it's become is a way that initially people who regenerate the land, so farmers who regenerate the land, and they do that because they love to. You wouldn't pour your heart and soul into your land and regenerating the land if you didn't love to do it. You know, it's a big investment that they've made over the years. So we have these people who've created enormous value for us: fresh air, clean water, healthy soil, good food. You know, these are the priceless things that we need to value more than anything else. And they're not valued. Fresh air isn't valued. We actually would pay, this is a really bizarre thing. Well, let's take water. We would pay to put poisons into our water, like fluoride, for example. But we don't value clean water. Like, we don't really know how to, we don't value living trees. We value dead trees because we can turn them into things. So all these people, they produce this value which really has no price, but it is of ultimate value to all of us. It's what makes life work. On the other hand, you have the markets with all their money, and what we've done is found a way to bring them together. So we created a system for measuring the improvement that these farmers have made on their land, so improvement in ecological condition. We value the work that they've done to create that condition. We aggregate them all together so that instead of having one farmer who doesn't really meet the requirements of the financial markets, we have lots of farmers, lots of land, lots of value, you know, and we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars at a time. So we're talking their language, not the $5 million, you know, I'm a little business and I need some investment, but big money. And then we take that, we package it into a financial product. We have what we call living shares and living options. So it's very cool. Most people don't brand their shares, they just sell shares. We have living shares and living options, which are things that can be bought and traded in the way that things are on the financial markets. But what's beautiful about it is that those shares, for example, the money gets shared. Most of it goes to the producers, the farmers, because they did the work, but it gets shared with everybody who contributes to it. So suddenly in business, we're all on the same side. We're not competing with each other. We're all working together to create the most value, really, for all of us, by cleaning our air and our water and having healthy soils, not collapsing soils, and creating health and well-being. So Love To basically is that it's a new way of investing in environmental and social improvement. So in regenerating and protecting nature and human quality of life. And everyone's investing. The farmers are investing. The banks are investing. People can invest. Everywhere we look, we're just investing in what's really valuable for life.
I'm kind of speechless hearing that, to be honest. Like, I'm just completely blown away.
That's what I mean. It's just, you know, it's a business based on the principles of money as I've come to know it. And that's the difference that it makes.
Hear, hear. Wow. Wow. Amazing. Well, maybe that's a good place for us to leave it for now. I'm just blown away, so I don't know if I can. I might just have to bask in the brilliance of what you've just shared for a little bit to be able to ask another question. But I can't ask you if there's anything else you'd want to share before. I know we've got a few minutes left. Is coming up into the event and just in the momentum of what we're exploring here today, is there is there anything else you'd want to share with folks who might be out in the world resonating with the exploration we're in right now?
Yeah, I think there's something really important in one way, what I've just been talking about now is really huge, but the change that I'm describing here is a change that can't only be made at the huge level and not at the individual level, or only at the individual level and not at the system level. So this started in me. I had a really regular old-fashioned relationship with money, and I'm still learning the new relationship with money. But all of this started simply because I started to do the inner work myself, like to start to shift my own relationship with money, which made it much better. So it's very rewarding. And then it sort of folds into your business, and then it starts to touch other people, and then they start to think differently. And then suddenly I find myself in business with somebody who I would never have been in business with. Like, I saw him as a kind of somewhere between agriculture and venture capital. It's like not my thing at all. And here it is absolutely my thing. And I would not have known that. So there are a lot of unpredictables here, but individuals create systems. And so what I want to say is that you could feel very small, as I have done and often do. I just feel very small in what I'm doing. You can feel very small and insignificant, or you can feel like, no, I'm somebody who's actually quite influential. I do get to influence business or investment. Doesn't really matter who you are. Every single one of us is making a difference in this shift. And that's the invitation that I have for you, is to include yourself in it, whoever you are and whatever your perceived influence is, because there is really no limit to the way that we influence the whole. We're in a very special time, especially this year, where what I perceive in the energy field is that you no longer have to be a famous or a powerful person. There's a special energy around at the moment where any of us who is sincere, really cares, really values life, we have as much power as everybody else. It's very extraordinary and very beautiful. So I feel it's an important moment for us as humanity in terms of shifting our direction. And it comes from us as individuals, and then we group together, as you and I are now, like we're doing something together with some of our friends. And that's what it grows from.
Yeah, the ultimate grassroots movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love the inclusive nature of that. If there's nobody who's not playing this game in one way or another, so why not play it with money in the way money wants us to play with it? And yeah, it seems like your book and this conversation are beautiful invitations for anyone to come and do that. So I'm listening to your book, Love Money, Money Loves You, on Audible, which I'm really enjoying. And folks can find your work and everything else you're up to on sarahmccrum.com. Is that where you usually send folks?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And then Love To is
love2.group.
Group. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for this. I'm at there's so much like love and excitement bubbling up in me. My brain has fallen apart. So I'm hoping that I'm cohesive in some way or another, but I'm certainly excited to be sharing you in this conversation with the world, and inviting everyone to join us on the 1st for a deeper dive and to continue exploring if you're resonating. So thanks.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think it's a kind of landmark conversation in my mind.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love hearing that. Okay. Well, thank you, Sarah. It's been a joy and a pleasure and an honor. Yeah.
Yeah.